The storm that changed everything. The wind howled like a wild animal outside. Snow slammed against the small survival tent, shaking it with every gust. Inside, Jackson sat alone, wrapped in 2 thick thermal blankets, holding a hot metal cup filled with weak tea. He had been on this frozen planet, Varna 6, for 47 days. No cities, no people, just ice, snow, and radio silence. The mission was simple: monitor weather changes and send reports back to command. But now, the only thing to report was this storm, and how it refused to end. Jackson stared at the heater's low flame. The power was dropping. Soon it would be just him and the cold. Then, scratch. Something touched the outside of the tent. He froze. Had the wind. Scratch, no. This was slower. Deliberate. Like claws. Jackson quietly reached for his sidearm. He stood, moved to the flap, and slowly unzipped the entrance. At first, nothing, just snow and white haze. Then, a figure collapsed into the tent opening. Small, thin, shivering. Help, the voice whispered, weak and cracked. Jackson dropped to his knees. It was a girl. Her skin was blue, glowing faintly beneath frost-covered clothes. Long purple hair clung to her face. Her ears were pointed. Not human. An alien. Jackson pulled her inside and zipped the tent shut behind her. She was cold. Too cold. Her fingers were stiff like metal. Her lips almost blue-black. He grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around her fast. "Who are you?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Instead, she leaned close to the heater, trembling. She looked at him with big, glowing eyes and whispered, "I just needed to warm up." Jackson stared at her, unsure. He'd never seen her kind before. Not in the files, not in reports. She wasn't from any known allied species. She looked young, but her eyes, they looked older than the snow outside. He offered her the rest of his tea. She drank it without a word, then curled up in the corner, holding her knees. Jackson didn't sleep that night. He watched her from across the tent. Her breathing slowed. She stopped shaking, but she didn't close her eyes. She stared into the flame, like she was listening to it. At dawn, the storm still raged. Jackson lit another heat pot and handed her a protein bar. She ate slowly, chewing like it was her first real food in days. Then he asked again, "What's your name?" She looked at him, carefully, then replied, "Sira." "Where are you from, Sira?" She glanced toward the tent flap, then down at her hands. "I'm from the South Ranges, but I can't go back." "Why not?" She hesitated, then answered, "Because they're hunting me." Jackson's eyebrows lifted. "Who's hunting you?" She said nothing, just stared. That's when he noticed the markings on her neck. Not tattoos, not wounds. They glowed faintly beneath her skin, and they looked like symbols. Moving ones. Later, that evening, Jackson checked the outside sensor logs. No other life forms detected nearby. No tracks, only her. Or so the system said. She sat near the tent wall, staring into the snow beyond the plastic flap. He asked quietly, "What were you doing, out there alone in that storm?" Sira replied softly without turning her head. "Looking for you." Jackson froze. He blinked, unsure if he heard her right. "Looking for me?" She nodded once, then lay down on the sleeping pad. Her final words before sleep were quiet. Almost too quiet. "It's safer with you, at least for now." Jackson didn't understand. But in that moment he knew one thing. This wasn't just about staying warm. Something had followed her. And now, it might be coming for both of them. The girl with no tribe. The storm outside slowed, but inside the tent a different kind of storm was building. Jackson sat near the heater, eyes locked on the girl still wrapped in his emergency blanket. She hadn't moved much since last night, but she wasn't asleep. She was watching him, always watching, like she was waiting for something. "Are you hungry again?" Jackson asked. Sierra blinked once slowly. "I don't need much food." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "That's not what I asked." She tilted her head. "I'm not used to someone asking." They sat in silence, the kind of silence that felt heavy, like unspoken things filled the space between them. Outside, the wind howled against the canvas. Inside, Sierra finally whispered, "I was part of a group. We don't call them tribes. We call them links." Jackson listened carefully. "My link was broken. I was removed." "Why?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled back part of her coat and revealed a small part of her back. It wasn't skin, it was metal. No, not metal. It looked like living silver shaped into soft patterns that moved slowly like water. Jackson leaned forward, stunned. "What is that?" Sierra wrapped the coat back around herself. "It's why they want me gone." He didn't understand, but he didn't press her. Instead, he handed her a small water bottle. She took it with quiet hands. Later that day, as Jackson was checking his supplies, he opened one of his locked bags. His eyes widened. Inside, carefully placed between his equipment, was something that wasn't his. A small silver orb, glowing with soft blue light. "Sierra?" he called. She didn't respond. He turned. She was standing silently behind him. He didn't even hear her move. "What is this?" he asked, pointing to the orb. Her face didn't change. "I hid it there. I had no time. I was being chased." "By who?" "My kind. Others. They found out I had it." Jackson picked it up. The orb felt warm, like it was alive. The moment he touched it, it pulsed. A thin light traveled up his arm. Just for a second. Sierra stepped back, eyes wide. "It responded to you." "What does that mean?" Jackson asked. She didn't answer immediately, then said something that changed everything. "It chose you." The words hung in the air like a spark waiting to catch fire. Jackson stared at her. "Chose me for what?" Sierra finally looked him in the eyes. "I don't know yet. But that's why I came to find you." That night, he asked her, "Why not destroy it? Why not run without it?" She looked into the dark corner of the tent and said, "Because the ones hunting me don't want to destroy it. They want to use it." Before bed, she moved closer to the heater. Jackson handed her his jacket, but she shook her head. "I don't need the warmth now." He raised a brow. "Then why come to the tent?" She didn't look at him this time. Instead, she said, softly, "I didn't come here to warm my body. I came to protect something else." "What?" She closed her eyes. "You." Jackson didn't sleep for hours. His tent had always been a place of safety, a bubble away from the cold. But now, it was something else. A place where a strange alien girl, unwanted by her people, had brought something ancient, and maybe dangerous. But somehow he didn't feel afraid. He felt like his own story had finally begun. What she was hiding. The orb didn't glow like a machine. It breathed. Soft pulses of blue light moved across its surface like ripples on water. Jackson had never seen anything like it, not in all his Earth-based training nor in the tech briefings before being dropped on Varna 6. And yet, it felt familiar. Sitting at the edge of the tent, Jackson turned the orb slowly in his hand. "Sierra," he said without looking up, "this isn't just alien tech, is it?" Across the small heater, Sierra was silent. Then she stood. She moved toward him with slow, careful steps. "It's not just tech," she said. "It's living memory." Jackson frowned. "What does that mean?" She sat across from him and reached out. Her hand hovered just above the orb. When someone touches it, it reacts to who they are. Not just what species, not DNA, but purpose. Emotion. Truth. Jackson chuckled. That sounds like myth. But the orb pulsed again in his hand. Twice, slowly, like a heartbeat. Sierra didn't smile. I thought it would choose me. But it didn't. She pulled back her sleeve and revealed her wrist. Jackson leaned forward. There were burn marks, circular, perfectly shaped, like the orb had rejected her. Jackson looked back at the orb, then at her. So why me? Sierra looked down. I don't know. Maybe because you still believe in something. They sat in silence. Outside, the wind picked up again. A sharp blast hit the side of the tent, causing it to shudder. Sierra's head turned fast, too fast. Her eyes glowed slightly. What is it? Jackson asked. She moved to the flap and placed her hand just above it. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We're not alone anymore. Jackson grabbed his scanner and pointed it toward the entrance. No signs, no movement, just snow. Then, a flicker. 1 dot. Then 2. Unregistered heat signals. He turned to ask Sierra what she saw, but she was already reaching into her cloak. From a hidden pocket, she pulled out something else. A blade, curved, alien, made of metal that shimmered between silver and black. He stepped back slightly. I thought you said you weren't dangerous. I'm not, she said calmly. But they are. Jackson moved to grab his weapon but hesitated. What did you do, Sierra? She didn't look at him. Instead, she whispered, I stole a key to something no one was supposed to find. The orb in his hand pulsed again, brighter now, warmer. It lit up the tent, casting long shadows. Suddenly, it sent a wave of energy through the floor. Jackson dropped it in surprise. A light burst from the center and formed a small projection above the orb. It wasn't a map, not data, not language. It was a vision. A dark room, a large machine, thousands of people, some human, some alien, trapped in what looked like suspended animation chambers. Jackson stared, stunned. What is this? He whispered. Sierra replied, It's the lab where the first ones fell asleep. It's real. And I found it. She stepped closer. And this orb is the only way to wake them up. Before Jackson could speak, a sound echoed outside, a distant sharp click, click, click like claws against metal. Then another. Then a shadow moved past the tent flap. Sierra backed up fast, her eyes wide. They found us.
Jackson looked around. No escape routes, no weapons strong enough to defend. And the orb, it now glowed red. Not soft, but urgent. Warning. Sierra stood at the center of the tent and turned to him. If we don't leave now, they won't just take me. She locked eyes with him. They'll take you too, because now you carry what they fear. Jackson nodded once, then grabbed the orb, and for the first time, it didn't pulse in warning. It pulsed in welcome. The hunters in the snow, the wind, was howling again. But this time, it wasn't just the wind, it was something else. Click, click, scratch. The sound circled the tent like wolves in the dark. Inside, Jackson held the glowing orb tightly. Its light flickered, red then white then pulsing blue again. Sierra stood near the entrance flap, blade in hand, every muscle tight. They're here, she whispered. Jackson peeked through a gap in the tent wall. Nothing, just white snow and black rocks, but then movement. A tall, thin figure walked through the storm, too smooth, too fast. It had no face, only a sharp plate over where a mouth should be, and glowing vertical eyes like a machine that learned how to hate. Jackson swallowed hard. What are they? Sierra didn't take her eyes off the flap. They were once like me, she said. Now, there's something else. The orb pulsed again, this time bright red. Danger, urgent. Sierra turned quickly. We have to run. Now. Jackson threw open the back flap of the tent, grabbed his pack, and shoved the orb inside. The wind punched him in the chest like ice knives. Sierra followed, covering him with her curved blade as they sprinted across the snow. Behind them, they heard it. The sound of claws cutting metal. Their tent was being ripped apart like paper. They ran downhill into the icy canyon. The snow was deep, but the moonlight showed a narrow path through the rocks. Jackson was panting, slipping every few steps. Sierra moved fast, graceful, even in the cold, but when she turned back to check on him, a sharp whistling sound flew past. Her head cracked, the rock beside them exploded. "They're using shock darts," she yelled. Jackson ducked behind a boulder. "Since when do exiles have weapons like that?" "They don't," she said, "which means they're not working alone." She pulled him down just before another blast hit where his head had been. Sierra looked at his pack. "Give me the orb." "What? Why?" "I can hide its signal. Just trust me." Jackson hesitated, but the look in her eyes was real. Not fear, not panic. Focus. He gave it to her. She placed it on her chest and closed her eyes. Her skin began to glow faintly. Symbols on her arms lit up then. Nothing. The sound stopped. The snow settled. The glowing figures in the distance paused like they had lost the trail. "Let's move," she whispered. They slipped into a nearby cave. Inside, Jackson lit a heat pod and pressed his back to the wall, breathing hard. Sierra sat across from him, the orb now dim again in her hands. "They can't track us for now," she said. "I locked its echo frequency." Jackson nodded slowly, still shaking. "Why are they so afraid of it?" he asked. Sierra stared at the orb. "Because it wakes the old ones. The first ones." "The what?" She looked at him. "The ones who were put to sleep, before the stars had names." Jackson was silent. He realized now. This wasn't just a stolen object. It was a key to something ancient. Something powerful enough that even modified hunters were sent across frozen planets to stop her. As the fire cracked between them, Sierra's voice softened. "I didn't expect it to choose you." Jackson looked up. "Why not?" "You're human. You weren't part of its creation, but still, it reacted like it had been waiting for you." Jackson sighed. "I didn't sign up for this. I was just supposed to study weather." Sierra smiled faintly for the first time. "Sometimes the storm finds you anyway." Outside, the night was calm again, but far in the distance. Red eyes blinked in the dark. Watching, waiting, and following. She doesn't want to leave. The cave was cold, but not like the storm. This cold was quiet, still. The kind that crept into the bones only when fear left the body and thoughts became louder. Then the wind. Jackson sat with his back against the stone wall, watching the small fire crackle. The orange glow danced on the rough cave walls, on his bruised hands, on her face. Sierra. She sat cross-legged, the orb resting in her lap like a sleeping child. Her eyes were half closed, but she wasn't asleep. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Neither had he. "You should rest," Jackson said. Softly, she shook her head. "I can't," she whispered. "I only rest when I feel safe." "You're not safe with me?" She looked at him, long pause. Then, "I am." Outside, snowflakes fell like soft ashes, covering the trail behind them. The hunters weren't close, not yet, but they would be. Jackson sighed and pulled off his outer coat. He laid it beside her without a word. Sierra blinked. "You'll be cold." "I'm always cold," he said with a faint grin. "But you barely survived 2 nights ago. Take it." She stared at it for a moment, then reached out and touched his hand instead. It was a small touch, but it carried everything: gratitude, worry, and something neither of them wanted to name yet. "I was never supposed to come this far," she said, voice barely a breath. "They said I wouldn't make it through the lowlands. I wasn't a warrior. I wasn't one of them anymore." Jackson leaned back. "They were wrong." "No," she said, eyes on the fire. "They were right. I'm not strong. I'm just desperate." He shook his head. "No, you're something else." She looked at him again. "You're still here." Silence passed like a slow wave. Then her voice, lower this time. "I know what you think," she said. "You think I came into your tent because I was cold." Jackson didn't answer. She continued. "But it wasn't the storm that scared me." She placed her hand on her chest. It was what I was starting to feel, and I didn't know where else to go. Jackson turned toward her. "You're still not telling me everything." She nodded. Not yet. But I want to. She paused. Then finally, said something that made him sit up straight. I don't want to leave anymore. His throat tightened, not because of fear, because of what he was starting to feel too. He tried to play it off. You don't exactly have many options. She laughed, soft and genuine, for the first time. It echoed lightly through the cave. I'm serious, she said. Before I met you, I was only trying to survive. But now, I feel something different, like I'm more than what they threw. Away! Jackson looked at the orb, still glowing gently in her lap. And what happens if that thing leads us to something worse? Sira met his eyes. Then we face it together. The fire burned lower, the snow outside grew thicker, and in that cold cave, nothing more needed to be said. She didn't crawl beside him for heat. She sat beside him because she wanted to be close, not just in body but in choice. Two strangers from different stars, now breathing in sync. In the shadows outside the cave, distant shapes moved slowly across the snow. The hunters had not given up, but they had no idea what was growing inside this cave, not just warmth, but something unbreakable. The signal has been answered. The orb woke first. Before the sky cracked, before the ground rumbled, before the hunters howled, the orb pulsed, once, twice, then steadily, like a drumbeat building in the heart of a storm. Jackson and Sira sat beside the fire, their heads leaning close. The silence between them finally, soft and easy, but the moment that pulse came, they both felt it. Not in their ears, but in their bones, the kind of feeling that said, something is coming. And it already knows where you are. Sira stood fast. She held the orb in both hands, her skin lighting with soft silver glow where it touched her. It's awake, she whispered. Jackson grabbed his gear. What does that mean? Sira didn't answer, because the cave began to shake. From outside, a low metallic sound rolled through the air like thunder, but deeper, not natural, not alive, but not mechanical either, something in between. They ran outside the cave mouth, snow crunching under. Their boots. The wind had gone still. The night sky shimmered with green and blue auroras, until a tear opened in the clouds above. Something was descending. Huge, silent, ancient. Not a ship, not exactly. It looked like a temple made of stars, hovering slowly downward, made of black stone, glowing patterns, and pulsing blue veins like veins of a sleeping god. Jackson stepped back. His breath caught in his chest. What the hell is that? Sira's eyes filled with light. The first ones heard the signal. The orb in her hands glowed white-hot, lifting gently into the air between them. A beam of light fired upward, connecting. The orb to the ship above. The snow around them melted instantly. The hunters, creatures once so terrifying, now stood still at the edges of the trees, frozen, kneeling, like something inside them remembered this light and feared it. Jackson shielded his eyes as the ship's voice spoke, but it didn't use sound. It used memory. 1,000 images flashed. In Jackson's mind, ancient cities, alien wars, a machine breaking time, and a message that kept repeating, "We are not gone. We are waiting for the key." He fell to his knees. The vision left just as fast as it came. Sira crouched beside him. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "I saw everything." She touched his hand. So did I. The orb returned to her hands, dimming back to blue. The ship above stopped descending, but remained there, watching, waiting. Jackson looked up, heart pounding. What happens now? Sira looked at the orb, then at him. "It's not just calling them," she said. "It's choosing who leads them next." Far off in the forest, the hunters vanished into the dark, silent and defeated. They no longer had a purpose. The signal had answered itself, and it had answered to a human and a girl with no tribe. But above them, the stars weren't done shifting. Something bigger was still coming. And the next decision wouldn't be survival. It would be destiny. Not just a girl, not just a human. The ship in the sky didn't move. It floated above the snow-covered trees like a silent god, watching, judging, waiting. The light from it turned night into day, painting everything in cold silver and soft blue. Jackson stood next to Sira, his breath still shaky. The orb between them no longer glowed. It hovered, silent and still, like a judge in a courtroom made of stars. "They're asking something," Jackson said, his voice quiet. Sira nodded. "They want to know if we are worthy." "Of what?" Her eyes turned toward the ship. "Of waking them." A beam of light shot down from the floating structure. It didn't hit the ground. It stopped just in front of them, like a door made of light, pulsing, alive. Sira stepped forward. "They called me a mistake," she said softly. "My own people. They said I didn't belong anywhere." She turned to Jackson. "But the orb, it chose me. Then it chose you. Maybe it always needed both." Jackson stared into the beam. "Are you saying it wants us to go up there?" Sira nodded. "Not just go, lead, together." He almost laughed, but didn't. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a beginning. As they stepped into the light, the world around them disappeared. No snow, no storm, no cave. Only stars. Inside the ship, they stood on a glass floor that showed galaxies spinning below their feet. In front of them, massive crystal pods lined across an endless chamber. Inside each pod were beings. Some human-like, some not. Some. In between, all asleep, all waiting. A voice, not male, not female, not alien or human, spoke in their minds. "We were the first. But not the last. You are both. And more. You carry the past and the path forward. Awaken us, or leave us. The choice is yours." Sira looked at Jackson. Her voice trembled. "If we wake them, the galaxy changes. Powers shift. Wars could start. Peace could grow," Jackson nodded. "If we don't, they sleep forever, forgotten." They stood in silence. Then Jackson stepped forward. "I'm just a man who fixed radios and recorded snowstorms." Sira took his hand. "And I'm just a girl no one wanted." She smiled. "But together, maybe we're something new." They reached out. Together. Touched the central crystal. The orb floated between them, and then, light. Every pod in the ship lit up. Every star outside grew brighter, and across galaxies. Ancient tech awakened. The first ones had returned, because a human and an alien girl made the choice no one else would. Back on Varnus 6, where the snow still fell, the hunters kneeled in silence, their purpose finally complete. And in the stars, above, 2 names were written in a new language, not saviors, not rulers, but beginning points, because Sira was not just a girl with no tribe, and Jackson was not just a forgotten human in a tent. Together, they were the bridge, the fire in the snow, and, the start of something bigger than anyone had ever imagined. The end, a human, an exile, a signal, a future